We scrubbed the transcripts so that the responses are anonymous, but
Okay.
we like the conversation to be as free flowing as possible so that your perspective and your words comes through, and that's why we try to tape them so we get the verbatim responses.
Okay, but you protect the innocent.
Yeah, we do. Indeed, we do, sir. All right, so let's start with a first question, which I always describe as a State of the Union question. How are things right now, so to speak? So how would you describe or characterize Emerson's current relationship with the LBPs as a group, and how has that changed over the last few years?
So I believe the State of the Union is strong. I was concerned a year ago. I'm sure you know a lot of this background. We've had this major acquisition take place, and I was worried, and I work for the flow controls or Fisher arena.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried there'd be a distraction level and a loss of focus and, investments made outside the little piece of the puzzle I'm responsible for, and I don't see that. I see them excited and all in on the whole business as they've ever been, including the flow controls or Fisher piece. So I've had the opportunity in the last couple of weeks to sit down with 5 LBPs, and they've shared their growth plans with us, and I believe them. I don't think they're blowing smoke. That they're as in on Fisher as they've ever been before, and I think they appreciate that we have essentially doubled down on our relationship with them, sharing part of this acquisition with them and expanding everyone's space. So big picture-wise, I would say the State of the Union is very strong.
Fantastic. And that I can tell you the valves and controls acquisition has been a part of a number of conversations I've had up to this point. And you're saying that, again, just trying to make sure that I capture this right, you're saying that a year ago you were concerned it could have been a huge distraction, could have made some really big problems, and it hasn't done that. $3 billion acquisition, it seems to be going well.
I think they've done Herculean efforts to keep the focus on the traditional business and do what they can to drive the new business.
Okay. Perfect. So with that strong relationship in mind, what stands out to you as the greatest value that the LBPs themselves bring to Emerson, and in particular the part of the business you work for?
Well, the big differentiator that we have because of the LBPs that our competition doesn't is the trusted advisor status they're able to generate with our customer base. There's pros and cons of the model we have because we have this amazing entity, the LBPs, in between us and the customers. But the pros of that seem to far outweigh the cons, and the pros are they are intimately and deeply involved, both commercially, technically, and just relationship-wise, with the territory that they're locked into. They don't have anywhere to grow except organically within the bounds of their territory. And I think that model, along with the consistency we've had for I don't know how many years now, 90 years in some cases, generates a lot of customer loyalty, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. In fact, my peers in the other world areas are very jealous of the LBP network in North America.
I see. Okay. Great. So, strong relationship, trusted advisor status with the customer base, providing some real intimacy there in their geographic regions. But which aspect of the relationship between Emerson and the LBPs as a group do you think needs the most attention?
The most attention?
Yeah. In other words, what do you think the LBPs themselves need to focus on more in terms of the relationship with Emerson, and in particular your part of the business?
Oh, I think, so specifically my part of the business is maintaining, I'm losing the words, but I would say some sort of common culture.
Okay.
With the business getting bigger and broader, more trips to Marshalltown, more trips by Marshalltown people to LVPs and making sure we're breaking bread together and investing in that relationship that's created the culture over time. I think it's just naturally a challenge. I mean, I don't know how they balance all those balls in the air, but
yeah,
carving out time to even come visit us when there's no event planned, it seems to pay huge dividends in the transparency and the culture of our relationship.
Yeah, so it's almost like serendipitous visits would be good, right? They have those, what do they call them, advisor visits and things like that, those regularly scheduled catch-ups and pull-ups.
Yeah.
But you're saying, hey, it'd be nice for you guys to show up in a very sort of casual and informal way and just continue building relationships.
Exactly. We have September, we have all the LVP presidents and their valve business leaders come to Marshalltown, and before that meeting, they always say to me, "Oh, I'll catch you in September, and we'll talk in September." There's no way. We're all swamped with an agenda. It doesn't happen. So those casual, informal visits where it's their agenda, I think, huge dividends.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard some folks talking about the possibility that some form of rotation, perhaps, from an LVP into a role at Emerson might also deepen knowledge of the business as well as deepen relationships. Is that something that appeals to you?
Absolutely. I'd go both ways, too. They come into the Emerson side of the fence, and our folks going into their organizations, whether it be permanent or temporary.
Okay.
Those are huge pros.
Wonderful. Thanks. So let's shift our attention specifically to their selling capabilities for a moment. And I'd ask you if you've seen across the last few years, 5 years in particular, since the last time they did this big strategic planning effort, have you noticed any progress with regard to how they've improved specifically their selling capabilities?
I think on the improvement side, it's not across the board. Some have invested in severe service, dedicated folks. I think that's a very positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Others have gotten better religion on services-led selling. Again, not across the board, but good stuff there.
Okay, so moving away from selling solely products, but also the aftermarket solutioning, servicing that can be done.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So they've done a good job of making sure that's part of the sales conversation, and you think they're communicating well in the sales process to get that across.
I think they've made some strides in changing their organizational structure to marry up with that.
Okay. But again, as you said, not across the board, so there are some inconsistencies.
Yep.
Okay.
On both the service-led selling and the severe service product selling.
Help me to understand that severe service product selling.
It's a different tier of our control valve. It's you got general service, which is kind of the easy applications, and you got severe service, which are the very tough, demanding, technically detailed, where you're going to go into a customer's office and it's almost like hand-to-hand combat with your competition. They're going to say this and we're going to say that, and you got to be pretty educated to have those talks. And if you don't have someone that lives that every day, it's hard to win in that game.
Okay. So thank you for clarifying that for me. Because that then sounds like there's, let's just call it a knowledge issue on the front side of the sale around a particular product line.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks. One of the things I know the SGP is really interested in achieving in terms of success is better collaboration and cooperation across the network of LVPs. So rather than being 21 individual companies standalone doing all their own thing, really coming together as a network to provide some value so that 1 + 1 = 3, right?
Yep.
Rather than just 2. And so they were wondering if you've seen any improvements in how they are collaborating with one another, sharing expertise and so forth to help grow Emerson's business in North America. Can you speak to that at all?
I see a couple things. I may be blind to more, to be honest. But our like I said, we